Right, a quick look then at the scorecard post day one, and the Australian batting form is a bit of a concern really for the visitors. Shane Watson has 150 in his last 7 test innings. Ed Cohen's average meanwhile is below 32, while Phil Hughes' average so far in this series is below 9 from 3 innings. Meanwhile, Ravindra Jadeja and Bhuvneshwar Kumar have both registered their best bowling figures. All right, let's get our experts into the show now. Mr. Gavaskar, thank you so much for joining us this evening, sir. First up, we'll talk about Michael Clarke's surprising declaration. But before that, what do you make of the Aussie score? 237. Would you say it's below average in these conditions, or does it have the potential of becoming a dangerous one?
No, if you win the toss and you bat first, I think that's a pretty ordinary score. When a team bats first on a good batting pitch, and days 1 and 2 are generally good batting pitches in India, you expect the team to be scoring at least 400 runs. And the Australians never looked like scoring the runs once they lost those 4 wickets before the lunch session. Yes, in a test match, you are going to expect some sort of a partnership, sometimes a 70-80, a couple of partnerships, 70-80 or 150, which is what happened with the Wade and Clarke partnership. But I think the Indians, came back very well. Harbhajan bowled really well, and Jadeja was accurate. And with that low trajectory of his, he's difficult to get after in Test cricket.
Right, Dino, picking up from what Mr. Gavaskar is saying, the Aussie batting form is a real concern at this point of time, isn't it?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of it. I think if you want to call it where the Australians are under DEFCON 3 at the moment, they're under pressure everywhere, not just with the bowling, but with the batting. They tried even something declaring just to have 3 overs, which I thought was a very good ploy by Michael Clarke. I think what the Australian batting needs to do is start to play straight. I think that's the major problem. They're getting done on length. But they got opened up by a young kid named Kumar, who was just magnificent today, and young Jadeja. Harbhajan did bowl very well. Ashwin bowled well at times, but it was the young kids who hardly any test experience opened Australia up. So the Australians are going to have to learn to play straight, learn to cut straight, learn to play straight forward, back foot defensive, use their feet, or they're going to get sorted out, and they're getting sorted out in spades.
Well, Mr. Gavaskar, 6 of the 9 wickets that fell on day 1 were picked up by the spinners. 3, of course, went to Bhuvneshwar. What did you make of Michael Clarke's declaration? Surprised everyone, didn't it?
I think it was a good ploy. I think it was a bold declaration, because he knew that the last wicket pair was not going to add 100 runs or that. And he thought that, having a go at the Indians with just 3 overs left, he took the Indians by surprise. And sometimes, that kind of a ploy works. It didn't work because I think the bowlers bowled a little wide of the stumps, despite the fact that they were out and warming up. But warming up with the old ball and then going on to bowl with the new ball, the control is not always there. So I think India survived that, and that was a good thing, because if they had lost a wicket, then I think there would have been just a bit of tension in the dressing room.
Right, Mr. Gavaskar, going back to the Indian bowling, Dino here spoke about how Bhuvneshwar Kumar up top really opened up the Australian batting lineup, taking those 3 wickets. What did you make of Bhuvi today?
He bowled really well. I think since we saw him in the limited overs game, where he was moving the white ball so well, it was always on the cards that he would be able to get the red ball to move in the air and off the pitch even more. And that's what he did. You see, his action is a little bit deceptive. Because he bowls from so close to his right ear, everybody thinks that he's going to get the ball to come into the right hand and leave the left-hander. But the 2 wickets he got of Ed Cohen and of David Warner were with deliveries that came in, which was the outswing, his natural outswinger, and that surprised the batsman. And I think because he mixes up well, his line is very good, his length is very good, he will keep on taking wickets.
Only hope for Aussies right now on day 2, you would say, is that their fast bowlers do something similar to what Bhuvneshwar did on day 1.
Yeah, at one stage, as much as the spin looked hard work for the batsman, I thought there was a spell there by Ishant Sharma was a real worry, and of course Kumar, who reverse swung it there a little bit. Look, if the Australians can reverse swing it as well as the Ishant Sharma and bowl, hit the lengths and bash the pitch, I think they've got a good chance of knocking a few guys over. But gee, they're going to have to get into them early and get a couple of wickets, or they'll be chasing 300. You don't want to be 100 runs behind, 130 runs behind on this pitch, or it's good night.
Right, Mr. Gavaskar, let's talk about the team changes that have been made by the Aussies. India, of course, going in with an unchanged side. But for Australia, Doherty in for Lyon, Maxwell in for Stark. What do you make of these changes?
Well, I was quite frankly surprised about Stark's omission, because Stark has got this ability to get the ball to swing back into the right-handers, and India's got a lot of right-handers in their top batting lineup. And his natural over-the-wicket angle can also get the ball to go straight. So I was surprised that he was omitted from the team. Nathan Lyon might have got some wickets, but he conceded 200 plus runs. So his omission was probably on the cards if they were going to pick in Maxwell, who can bat a bit, and I believe is an outstanding fielder. So that was always going to be on the cards, that if Maxwell was going to be played, then Nathan Lyon wouldn't be playing. So, but Mitchell Stark's omission, I think, was a surprise.
Right, Dino, you've been telling us, especially once you put on Professor Dino's hat, that Maxwell should play, Doherty should play. You said that you made these 2 calls for the second test. That's exactly what's happened. Happy with these changes?
Well, they had to make some, and they've done that. I've heard whispers that Lyon wasn't well this morning as well, so that might have been part of the reason. He's a bit down the dumps.
Yeah, because it was surprising that Lyon's not there.
Not there at all. So he's not playing for that. Maxwell gets his opportunity, and the reason why I like him is that with the great spin bowlers that I've faced and been lucky enough to be associated with, particularly you got Murali, you got Warney, of course, and these guys, Maninder Singh had it when he bowled it. You can hear that through the air. And Maxwell has that. Harbhajan has that when he's bowling well, of course, as well. So he has that. Now, whether he can bowl the lengths that Harbhajan and Ashwin can bowl, we're about to find out.
Right.
But if you do that, and with that amount of revs on it, he'll do well. But look, a few different changes. They had to do something, but ultimately, you know, it's probably not enough runs for them to try to hold up when you win the toss and bat. But we'll find out tomorrow.
And why there aren't too many runs on the board is, of course, because the Aussie batsmen, not too many of them, could really stand up to the Indian spinners, except for, of course, the skipper, Michael Clarke. 6 of the 9 Aussie wickets that fell on day 1 were taken by the spinners. And one thing that is becoming quite clear is that not too many batsmen in this particular lineup is very good at playing spin, which brings me to a quote of VVS Lakshman's. The former Indian batsman told ESPN Cricinfo, you react to the ball that is coming at you. If you focus on the guy holding the ball, your thought process changes. You should remove things like the state of the pitch from your thought process altogether and only react to the ball. If you think too much about the wicket, you're only expecting a certain kind of delivery, and in the bargain you lose out on the shot you could have played. Mr. Gavaskar, if I could come to you on this one, as someone who countless batsmen really have looked up to as a batting idol, what would you say the Aussie batsmen are doing wrong?
Well, I think for starters, as VVS has said, I think mentally they are expecting every ball to turn and jump at their throats. And I think that means that they are not actually going as fully forward as they should. When Enriquez did that in Chennai, look at the success he had. And today Matthew Wade did that. Michael Clarke might not always stretch forward, but he's got such nimble footwork that he goes close to the ball and he smothers the spin over there or plays an attacking shot when needed. So I think it's a mix of the two, nimble footwork as well as soft hands and not jabbing at the deliveries. The Australians are playing with hard hands, and their bat speed is such that they're jabbing a little bit too hard at the deliveries and therefore getting themselves into trouble. Look, on a pitch, Indian pitch, nobody is going to be able to play the perfect innings. There will be inside edges, outside edges. You can't think about those inside and outside edges. You've just got to focus on the next ball. And I think if they do that, then they can. I mean, Michael Clarke has shown, Matthew Wade has shown that, with a little bit of patience, a little bit of application, a little bit of determination, you can hang in there.
Yeah, it's a very good point you make, Sonny. And I remember speaking to you at, I think it was at Lords in 1988 when we played in the World Team. You spoke about the fact that watching the bowlers in the nets and in the game, watching their release points. And I never ever forgotten that. And how you play great spinners is not necessarily charging them, is picking the length when it comes out of the hand and then be committed and be positive. Now, Sonny did that. You don't have to hit 1,000 balls in the net either. You can watch other guys in the net and commit that way. And that's one thing I think the Australians are dead set worried, and Sonny's right. They're worried about how far it's turning. Instead of picking the length right, then getting down to it or playing it off the back foot, they're getting caught on the crease and they're going. They need some blinkers on almost to make them watch the ball coming out of their hand. And look, with a bit of applications and minimise your backlift, they should be able to play it.
But Mr. Gavaskar, from what you've seen Michael Clarke do so far in the first test in Chennai and of course on day 1 of the Hyderabad test, would you say that's what he is doing? Because he's someone who's got 25 test 50s, he's got 23 test centuries. So would you say he is really following this rule?
Yes, he is. Because the other thing that Michael Clarke is doing is he's also playing straight. You will find that Shane Watson in 2 innings now has tried to play across the line and has been out LBW. On Indian pitches where the ball is going to keep low, you have to try and play straight. Try and play in the V. So what will happen is, in case the ball turns or deviates a little bit more, at least you will still get a little bit of edge to it. You might get an inside edge and you might be lucky, get the ball away. But you play across the line, you miss. The Indian bowlers are accurate. Jadeja is very accurate. If you miss, then you're going to be out bowled or you're going to be out LBW. So play straight.
Right. Also, very quickly before we wrap up the discussion for today, Mr. Gavaskar, 237 is what Australia put on the board. It's just day one now. Day two begins tomorrow. What would be a good score for India? What would they be looking at, provided, of course, that everything goes according to plan?
Well, I think, look, if Sehwag goes berserk, then India could well have 350 runs on the board by tomorrow evening. Right. But you could also have a situation where the match could be a pretty tight one and India could maybe just about take a little bit of a lead. But anything about 50, 60 runs lead is going to be very, very handy. Whichever team takes that lead, I think they will know that it is going to be a very handy lead.
Dino, final question. Aussies on the back foot, but would you still give them a certain percentage of chance of winning this test?
Well, you're still in it. It's always nice to have runs on the board. The Aussies going to have to take every catch going their way. They've got 10 LBWs against them at the moment, and they've got 1. And there's a bottom reason for that. Like Sunny said, they're not playing straight enough. Indian bowlers are hitting lines and lengths and hitting the guys consistently on the pads. And that's what the Australian bowlers have got to do. They've got to bash a length from just outside off stump, get the ball to nip around. We know the new ball can nip around and hold their catches and just hope the cricket gods are loving them, because at the moment they're not.